What's going on, everybody? Happy New Year. Welcome to another episode of the Hold Husband Podcast. I'm your host, Terry Duran. I got my co-host, Jay Bob, on the line with me today. What's going on, bro?
Nothing much, man. Happy New Year's. Hope everybody enjoyed their New Year. Hope everybody's bringing 2026 in the right way here. First episode of the new year. Hopefully we can get SD back next week. Then want to quickly remind you can catch us on TikTok as well as subscribe to us on YouTube at Hold Us Podcast. And for those of you interested in promos or shout outs, you can shoot us a DM on IG at Hold Us Podcast as well as email us at holduspodcast@gmail.com. All right, T.
I want to give a shout out to my man, Brother Soul Productions, for keeping us playing with our background music. I'd also like to remind everybody to continue supporting the podcast through our Cash App and our PayPal. And I'd like to remind everybody that you can get the audio playback of the podcast every Monday afternoon at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on the core94.com. Now, today's episode is titled Dating or Auditioning. And we're just going to be having a discussion about how men and women are evaluated in today's dating climate. So y'all know how we do around here, man. We like to start the podcast off by discussing some interesting videos or posts that we've seen on social media or on our timelines. So we got a couple interesting videos this week. This first video seems like a woman just came to terms with how the price of dating for men. Let's take a look.
Men, they date multiple women at the same time. So now they have to have a set price that they spending money. Mm-hmm. So if they done went on a date today, tomorrow, you know how much money that is? So you think that you're going to spend the same amount of money for each? You know what I'm saying? That's fucking about $200. Let's just say $200. So you got $200 for 3 times a week? That's right. $600. You know how much rent is? I think about it, if I was a man, I ain't spending no fucking money on nobody. Ain't no bitch worth it.
Now, it's interesting to see a woman, break that down. I can't really speak on that, man. $200 dates wasn't a thing back when I was actively dating like that. So I really don't know. I mean, having the money and being willing to just spend it like that, I don't know how I would deal with today's dating climate, because in my opinion, man, I've always felt like I'm going to create opportunities for us to link up and do fun things. So I'm always down to pay for food or entertainment, but I'm not going to do that every time I want to see you or hang out with you. You know what I mean? I guess I would be more into phone conversation. I've always, in-depth conversation is always the fastest way to get a woman to want me sexually. So I guess I lean into that. But I'm not a 200 date for a brand new chick type. What would you think?
Yeah, absolutely. But that's a lot. If you think about it, if you're spending $200, it becomes another bill. If you're spending that much money on date, if you're dating multiple women, you're spending that much money on dates, that's another bill. I mean, I just feel like you should keep it on a curve, for lack of better, just maybe $50 to $70. I know 20 years ago you can date on $50. I know everything has went up since. Going to even a restaurant like the Chili's, for example. It's the prices of food has gone up within the past 20 years. So I would say maybe closer to 75. But and you hear this too. Guys that date multiple, they do something simple like a coffee date, and you hear, women insulting that, mocking coffee dates. But, she just explained the rationale to why, she didn't necessarily say coffee dates per se, but she kind of explained the rationale why guys want to keep it to coffee dates. Because if you're dating 2, 3, 4 people at a time, yeah, that gets costly with going out to eat all the time, with taking them all out to eat.
Right. Back in the day, a lot of times when you met a new chick or whatnot, it wasn't a formal outing at a date. You could invite a girl to your homeboy's barbecue. Man, my partner's having a get together Friday. What you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can bring a chick that you just met or you met last weekend or something to a new event, and y'all could hang out and see, you know what I'm saying, have the one-on-one conversations, the laughs, all the things that make you actually fall for a person. And so you can, from my experience, you can have a quality conversation with a woman anywhere. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
I told the story one time about how I was at a Kappa party and I went outside and had a conversation with a girl for like 2.5 hours outside. Right, her car door. She was leaning on her car door. She eventually sat in the car door and had left it open, but we were literally in a parking lot talking and laughing and ignoring a whole party going on. You know what I mean? So um, that should be the focus of dating, in my opinion, and that would save guys, thousands of dollars a month. I guess like a Geico commercial. So
Yeah, no question about it. I think, like I said, I think what you look for different creative ways to, spend time and interact with women as opposed to going out and having to spend money. Because if we're gonna be real about it, right? When we're dating these women, we're doing everything we can, hoping she'll get into bed with us, right? Whether it's going out to a restaurant, even like you said, something fun. I don't know, go to Top Golf or something, right? You're hoping with the potential that that day or night ends with her jumping in the bed with you.
um, I don't. I hear guys say stuff like that, and that was never my philosophy on interacting with a
Mhm.
woman. Um, I'm not going on a date hoping that there's eventually going to be sexual interest. That's something that's a prerequisite to me taking you out somewhere. I can tell through my interactions, the body language, and the conversations I have with the woman whether she's interested in me sexually or not. And in
Mhm.
most cases, if I met her face to face, I can I wouldn't have shot my shot at her if the interest wasn't there. You know, because like I talk about all the time, I'm paying attention to who's paying attention to me. I'm looking at the
Mhm.
cues women give to the men that they are interested in. And so that was always my focus and my pre-screening process. So if you're on a date with a woman and you unsure whether she want to sleep with you or not, to me, your system is messed up. You know what I'm saying? Or inefficient or whatever word you want to use for it.
Wow. And you job it. But you know what? I don't think a lot of men, when they go down these women, I don't think they have that sort of like situational awareness for lack of better description here, right? Because men will go on 2, 3, 4 dates and not knowing if that woman is interested in escalating things further. And I think sometimes the men don't do it as
That's
well.
crazy to me.
It is, but you know what it is too with the men, right? The thing is, I think some men won't escalate because they're afraid. Okay, they might mess up whatever little rapport they had with her if they try to escalate or they get a little aggressive. We're trying to escalate things further to something sexual. But like you said, you should know within the first couple of interactions with her.
Yeah, there's a skill to getting in that gray area where you having romantic or sexual discussions with a woman. But my approach has always been I want to find out sooner rather than later. So saying something flirtatious, you know what I'm saying, some kind of sexual comment or letting her know I think she's fine. Like I'm gonna be direct about all, what I'm saying, those type of things. And if she responds negatively to it, great. The interest
Next,
is not mutual.
yeah,
But
okay,
if you've ever been in a situation where you see it on the TV shows and all that stuff. The attractive dude that the women find attractive is interacting with a table full of women. You can tell by their body language that they find him attractive, and their reception to his jokes or his flirtation or whatever is going to be drastically different. And so making sure that you are witty or fast enough to say something cute or clever to get women to smile or laugh, that those are the things that separate the guys. You know what I mean? Because every dude can pay for stuff. Every dude can do the same thing. So the women are choosing based off different things, and that's part of it. Say something flirtatious. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to be willing to do it. Otherwise, you're gonna be riding the friend
Peter,
zone barrier
yeah,
as long as you can. Like
you,
that's nah.
You're gonna you're gonna be going through it, kind of teetering the line. Hey, will I make it? Will I get any further with her? Will I not? And and a lot of times out of 10, nothing ever even comes from that. To be honest with you, you just end up
See,
kind of
to me,
so.
well, okay, I guess I don't. If you go on a date with a woman, right?
Yep.
I guess this ain't, back in the day, it was you went and picked her up and all that type of stuff. But now it could be, hey, here's the address. We gonna meet here at this specific time. If she don't like the physical touch that she gives you, you know what I'm saying? Like you should be able to touch if there's a mutual attraction. A woman that is actually physically attracted to you and has spoken to you on the phone and has got dressed to go on a date with you, she's been thinking about you for hours. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if that has taken place and when y'all link up, it's no, what I'm saying, social distancing going on, then that's a clear indication that she's not into you, especially at the end of the night. I guess some people may not kiss on the first date or whatnot. I didn't kiss at all. To me, kissing was more intimate than sex. That we can discuss that later.
I remember. I remember your rationale behind that.
Yeah, that kissing chicks always led them to think it was more than it usually was. So I would try to not give a full romance thing or make them think I was falling in love because you blowing the chicks back out and you tongue kissing her at the same time, that changes the equation. So I had kind of rules about that. But the body language thing is real, man. Like I don't have to have sex on the first date. I mean, but I expect a hug to where I can feel you. I want you to feel me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I want you to feel this working out. I want you to feel these muscles. I want you to smell this cologne. Yeah. And if I've been flirting with you, I've made some sexual some kind of joke about your panties or something. Man, it's what you could say anything to a woman that like you. If you know what I'm saying, if y'all vibing. Those were all things that I needed to do for me to even be interested in the second date.
No question. It's a great point you bring up. So even if it doesn't necessarily go down on the first date or the first time.
Most times it's not.
Yeah, right. You at least leave her wondering. Like you said, the type of hugs you give her. She's not giving you one of those hugs where she just, she's kind of distance from you, but she just leans out. One of those little friendly hugs. You looking for things like that.
True. Now. Guys can talk themselves out of it. Guys can change a woman's opinion of them throughout a date. That's why it's a date. You're both getting information. And like I said, if you can create the environment where y'all chill and where it's cool and she's comfortable and she actually likes you, through the things that y'all discuss, that's where it gets, to me, that's the only way to get a woman comfortable with you enough to be one-on-one to have sex. If you an aggressive dude and you scaring her, or you know what I'm saying, like you doing things that don't make a woman comfortable, then you preventing yourself from having those opportunities. And the strategic guy is going to have other things in place to further along his goal. His crib's gonna be clean. It's gonna smell good. His bathroom is gonna, you know what I'm saying? Like all the things that you're gonna do from Marcus Graham playbook is going to be set up to just in case. If I back when I was single, the 3 CD changer radios and stuff. I had one in my room. So I'm there full of R&B CDs, you know what I'm saying, like mixes or whatnot. So those are my sex tapes. I know I can entertain a woman for hours by just turning on a radio and hitting play. So just efficiencies to facilitate, candles, things that set the mood for a woman to be comfortable. My standard was comfortable enough to take her shoes off. If I can get a chick to my crib and she's comfortable enough to do that, I feel very confident that I could seal the deal. So some gems. I don't know how well that applies in 2026. I'm been married
I
almost
think
22
I think some of
years,
it's
so
still, I think some of it's can still apply to this day because, like you said, even with the shoes off, right? She's taking an article of clothing off, right? That's at least one part of it. If when she comes into the house, so I think it still applies.
all right, that's what's up, man. Let's keep things rolling. This next video is a video I came across where God was the question was posed: is the modern dating scene even worth it for men? Let's take a look.
Do you think men are choosing solitude or escaping unwinnable rules?
I think men are doing both. I think that they are choosing solitude because it is more peaceful for them instead of trying to deal with women who are built the way that modern society has built women, which is mostly a headache and an unwinnable game for men. I think that they've recognized that not only is this game completely unfair, but there's no winning, not for them. And so many of them, based on lived experiences or the people that they know or the narratives around here, which are commonly amplified on social media, it feels hopeless. Right? Why would I go work my ass off, take on the burden of taking care of another person? Why would I open my heart up? Why would I put myself out there? Why would I give myself to somebody if the way that the modern world is, she could find somebody else on Instagram tomorrow who might have more money than me, who might look better than me, who might be, 0.17% Chad bro, that women want. So I think they just recognize they're playing a losing game. And until women take on the responsibility, having the potential of being a wife, somebody who's worthy of being committed to, having virtue, I think that men realize that it is going to cost them much more than it gives them.
Now, this is something we talk about all the time. What do you bring to the table? The question gets phrased or posed in lots of different ways. And for a lot of guys, especially the guys that are, heavily into the red pill and these, extreme kind of belief systems, they don't feel like what they provide or what they give to women is worth the return. And in a lot of ways, it's not. Especially when you see the quality of the average woman in today's society. SD always comes with the stats on the obesity and the multiple children and all these type of things that decrease the interest level that you're going to get from the type of men that you actually want. Are there men that will sign up for it? Yes. SD is one of the guys that specifically talks about wanting a single mother, for biological proof. You know what I'm saying? Like his logic and reasoning is solid, and he's in a position to be able to provide for it or take care of the package deal. And so your dating philosophies in regards to all that has to reflect what the woman is bringing to you. And besides some used coochie, that's part of it. Obviously, a woman has to meet your sexual desires, but if that's all that she can do, if she just looks good and she can only have sex with you, that is not going to fulfill a man that actually has a lifestyle with substance and actually wants a
Yeah,
family.
and he makes a valid point. I guess the modern dating game, modern dating world has gotten progressive west. And I think one of the biggest things why is like relationships in this day and age have turned transactional. I mean, we've covered topics on this all the time. We've reacted to videos on say, hey, man's gonna do X, Y, and Z, and hey, I am the table. That's the cliche, and it became the cliche answer over the past few years or so. And you say he's doing all that. He's going out working a job, working long hours, just to provide for, that woman or a potential family. And for what? Just for sex here? I mean, and most men, from a practical, logical standpoint, that's just not an even exchange.
True. If the guy's making the bag and he, I have multiple friends that fit this category. They're single, they're unmarried, but they live a pretty player bachelor lifestyle. They're 6 figures or close to it. They live in nice homes, drive nice vehicles, and they outside. I think guys treat marriage and the family thing as if it's an option. It's not the thing that they're growing up focusing on, that they end all be all. Now, are they making sure that they're prepared to be able to provide for it? Yes, that's what drives the careers and the going to school or trade school, whatever you end up doing to get the bag. But I don't see guys that are just giving up on dating and interacting with women as a whole. Like, I never see the ranks. I'm just so done with dating. I'm never going on another date. Like, or I'm so frustrated I haven't met my woman. Like,
Yeah, right.
The dudes that make them kind of videos are the lames that women that ain't getting no play. So the guys that women actually want, that's out here living a lifestyle and, you know, bringing everything to the table that they act that a husband material man, you know, is bringing. Majority of them eliminate themselves by their expectations and their attitude. So as long as a guy can weed through that, he should be all right. Now that there's a caveat, I guess you could say. You can always, the majority of the time, guys' biology fails them and they end up overruled. They know a woman's not going to be a good wife or mother, but they still smashing anyway. And that can, there's always that potential of long-term problems.
Absolutely. Now, when you say, you know, your partners were unmarried, these were guys that were previously married and now divorced, right?
No, some have never been married.
Oh, okay.
But some are divorced. But I mean, like they have the mentality that, yeah, I want to have a wife and kids. You know, it's like they made it known that they do want that. But for whatever reason, you know, some of them have had serious relationships, live with a woman for this and that, you know. But at this point, they bachelors still. You know, they have kids and pay child support and take care of kids and all that, but they're not married. But they're in position to wife somebody up based off their assets and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of trying to go with that. You know, for the ones that were previously married, I'm sure they don't think that, you know, just like God said, there's not no benefit to a marriage. You know, after the fact, you know, he's had a wife, even had a family, you know, had kids, and there's no benefit to, you know, finding out women and probably don't want to go through that again.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the record saying that. I've always had that philosophy. I always said I was only getting married once. Like, I don't want to be. He's on his third wife. He's getting married one time, and I'm gonna give it my all. You know, I'm gonna adjust my behavior and do the things that I can to try to make it work. And if it don't, cool. I'm gonna be the super bachelor that I was always meant to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna get married. Now, my best friend disagrees with that. He's like, man, you so used to being with one woman, you ain't gonna just be outside like that. And I probably wouldn't. It might be temporary. You know, I don't know exactly what I do, but I seriously doubt I would ever get married. I guess you can't say 100%, but 97.5% chance. But no, because I don't want no more kids. That's the main reason why.
Yeah, that's what I figured too. You know, and we spoke about this on previous episodes. The only benefit to really get married, if you want to, you know, have a family and, you know, continue your family lineage or legacy here. Other than that, it's not really unless, you know, you want to get married. There's something you want to will away to this woman, or something that's, you know, you have assets that you want to will to. That would be the only other reason I can see.
You know, it's really interesting. You know, coming from a married man's perspective, I can't really put myself in a mind frame of what boyfriend and girlfriend is like in 2026 or 2025, because when I got married, one of the things that that was kind of a shock to me, like, man, it wasn't really no difference. You know, the only thing that was really different was on paper, she had my last name. If, you know, it was more difficult to break up, you can't just be like, I'm out and I'm moving out. You know, there's incentive to try to make it work. But in today's society, a lot of women have husband expectations for dudes that they just really dating. You know, like they really be feeling like, if anything is going wrong in my life, you should have the money to fix it or help me with it. And I would have a major conflict with that kind of attitude.
I would, because at the end of the day, you are not responsible for that woman's bills unless you are married to her. Now, I can understand if, let's just say, you guys are boyfriend and girlfriend, and maybe she's going through something, you want to help her out. I think that's one thing. But just you're initially dating, and she's just expecting you to help pay her, pay her phone, rent, or whatever. I mean, weren't you paying that before you met me? So what?
Well, I mean, I guess I could say if you are living together, then I can say I can understand a level of expectation. But even like you said, a lot of them expect you to pay your rent and then have the money to help her pay her rent. And the guys that get finessed with those, I don't know how I'm gonna pay this rent. I'm 3 days behind. Like they fall, the ones that fall into it or don't know how to tell a woman no, or afraid to, like you said, you were mentioning earlier, that fear of they don't want to say nothing sexual because she might leave or she might do this. Like the guys that kind of date out of fear of losing a chick, to me, that's a symptom of being a lame that never really just has success with women, for whatever reason. The dudes that have had success with chicks don't feel that way and are not afraid to lose you. That's why they hold you accountable and tell you what they don't like.
Yeah, but it's crazy. These same women that's expecting these dudes to pay for, do stuff that a husband would do, right? So these same women, you ask them what they do, hey, I don't give wifey benefits to, just a boyfriend or just a guy that I'm dating. But you know what I'm saying? It's crazy. You want these, I guess, husband benefits, sort of lack of better description here.
Yeah, to me, those are the kind of conversations or things that we will be discussing, during our first couple of conversations. I mentioned before, even if I was on a date with a woman, like I'd be pulling up social media clips and talking about, what you think about this, or what you saw this, to get an idea of where her headspace is and where her level of expectation is. To me, that's setting the table for you. And fellas, I've said this before, if you dating a chick and you following her and you see her in the comments and other pages and Shade Room and all this type of stuff,
spiritual word.
Yeah, they reveal and what they really think and what they really support. So I'd be cognizant of that too. But I guess that's a topic for another day. We about to take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna be getting into tonight's topic, dating or auditioning, where we're having a discussion about how men and women are evaluated in modern dating climate. You are tuned into the Or Auditioning podcast. We'll be back in a minute. Hi, I'm relationship coach and author Terry Duran, and I am pleased to announce that my book, It's Not That Complicated, is finally available as an audiobook. So if you don't like to read or you just don't have time to read a paperback book, this audiobook is perfect for you. You can listen to it while you're in your car, while you're at work, etc. In the book, I break down how husband material men think and operate in regards to sex, love, and relationships, and I provide real quality insight on how husband material men approach dating. The audiobook is available on audible.com and on iTunes. All you have to do is go to one of the websites and search for my name, Terry Duran. Go download your copy today. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Or Auditioning podcast. Today's episode is titled Dating or Auditioning. And we're just going to be having a discussion about how men and women are evaluated in the modern dating climate. Now, this seems to be a non-stop discussion on social media. I guess with my page being in the algorithm, that's kind of all I see on my timeline is discussions about dating, men and women, this and kind of this argument. So I my brain, I'm kind of overwhelmed with the discussions. But historically, there been, a major difference in how men or women are viewed and what are expected of them. So my first question that I wanted to ask you, how do you define what husband or wife material is? How would you define that?
That's a good question. I think first and foremost is being able to, I guess, run your own life, so to say, run your own household, being able to do things that adults do, and figuring out how that works with each other, figuring out if that's compatible with one another, right? If you're, because when you become husband and wife, you're mixing lives together. So how do those lives mesh well? Because not everybody's life meshes well together here.
True. I guess the reason why that is such an arbitrary question is because every individual gets to decide whether they feel somebody is husband or wife material. If you sometimes they have ulterior motives for accepting the marriage. He got money, whatever the case may be. But that it's that person that made the choices, that accepted the proposal, or he made the proposal to a woman based off him wanting to marry her. But in my opinion, my general definition for a husband is a guy that shows that he's either on the level or on the path to being able to provide for himself and his children if he has them. He operates with a set of laws and values and demands a certain level of respect among his peers, colleagues, family, etc. And he treats a woman in a life that creates a safe environment that's conducive to raising children and building a family. So that's what my criteria for husband material is. For a wife, I judge heavily on her ability to raise children and nurture a household. Whether a woman works or not is up to the couple and the man's income for the most part. But if a woman does work, to me, a woman that's not willing to contribute financially to her household, to me, that's not a wifely quality. A woman that just wants money to be able to shop and entertain herself with, to me, that's not wifey material. So that's one of the criteria that I would have to determine whether or not it's a woman that I would consider married. And so I think if men and women did a better job of defining what is really important in order to have marriage success or a long-term relationship success, I think the dating choices and the dating climate would improve at least a little bit, in my opinion.
I think it would. I think another problem we have in today's modern dating age, you're right, especially with the advent of the internet and social media, is I think, and I think I would say men to some degree, but I say more so to women too, they like or want what doesn't want them, right? Anything below that, what their expectations are, it's considered settling. So I think that sullies and muddies the waters there.
Yeah, social media has had a major impact on self-awareness and how people perceive themselves, largely women, because throughout society, even throughout social media, men are told what they actually are. If you fat, I can relate to it. I was fat and bald at one point. So I was reminded that I was fat and bald all the time, especially on social media. Oh, you bald, you this and that. Who gonna listen?
How you talking about relationships?
It gets held against you, and you get reminded of it frequently, as a man. And so the attention, the likes, the DMs, all these things that convince a woman that all these other men want her long term, they do become unappreciative to the men that is providing for them and making sacrifices on their behalf, dealing with their BS, taking care of their kids, all these other things that women kind of overlook and treat as if it's not a big deal, but are very significant to a man. And in my opinion, a man that is spending his money every month to provide for a woman, that's one of the most, a man's income or his livelihood is really the most important thing that he's doing with his time and energy. So to me, that's always been a big deal. But for a lot of women, it's overlooked and ignored for a large part.
Yeah, no question. And so generally men are judged by the wife they select, whether it's looks, character, or the lifestyle they provide for their family. And women are judged by how well she takes care of the house and her children. Do you think this is
I could say it's warp-sided. You know, historically, men are evaluated, like you said, by how they take care, the lifestyle that they're able to provide for their family, how they treat their family, etc. And so that's fair. You know, I have that expectation of men, but you also have to provide some context. Like the 100,000 in 2026 is not the same thing as in 1990 or, you know, in previous generations. So the lifestyle that those men were able to provide on one salary and all that does not apply to today's client. So you have to have that context when discussing the lifestyle expectations that a man's supposed to provide. Most men cannot provide this luxury lifestyle that women want on one income, you know. And so that's I think the biggest shift in how things are now. Like they want men to do what men did in the 1960s and 70s, but they remove the inflation and the economics out of it.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I mean,
but also let me finish. On the other hand, you know, a woman in large part is judged by how she looks, her appearances. That's kind of their dating currency, at least what's going to get them the initial attention of men. But as a society, we judge women on how they take care of their kids in their household. Because think about it, right? You see you in a real nice neighborhood, they in a $600,000 house or whatever. You go over there for a get together and the house is filthy. You walk in and it's filthy. Your first thought is not going to be, oh my God, this man is not providing for his family. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're going to be like, damn, he's doing his part. He got you a $600,000 house. You can't even keep this house clean. The woman's going to be harshly judged for having a filthy house. Same as if you see a man with his family and they living in a hut. They like, bro, you ain't doing nothing to fix this, to improve your situation. You partying every weekend and you still in a 1-bedroom apartment. Like, though, a man's gonna be harshly criticized by his friends and family for things like that. So I think it's still fair, you know. But for women, with the look portion, they have so many things to enhance their beauty. I think that's what warps the playing field. Women that are 2s and 3s get to put on a costume and makeup and Spanx and all this stuff to squeeze their body in the place and all that, and they get to experience life being outside as a 7 or 8. You know, guys don't get it like that. If you don't actually hit the gym and have the physique to show in your outfit, you're not gonna be able to put on no muscle costume and go out. You know what I mean? Like, so guys have to live in reality, and the guys that don't put in the work, it shows. And women are going to judge them harshly for it. But it's not the same for the overweight women or the women that are squeezing into their outfit to try to appear sexy.
Well, I think the difference with that, right? I think for the most part, men tend to hold other men accountable, right? You know, if we're in a circle of friends and somebody's, messing, you're gonna be like, you're gonna phone to say, hey man, you tripping over here, man. You don't need to be doing this. For the most part, women don't really hold each other accountable. They do, like you say, you see all these things, and even women doing something messed up, a lot of times they go ag it on and encourage it, as opposed to saying, hey, man, might not want to do that over there, and you tripping. So I think that's a difference there as well. And if we're just going to be honest, I mean, society does give women, deference and preferential treatment. It's just what it is, right, wrong, or indifferent here. But and here's the thing: right? Guys are judged by the how their woman looks and everything. But I will say this: I think a guy is probably better off with let's just say a 6, for example, that is willing to contribute to a household, can be a good mother to his children, as opposed to a 9 that would be the total opposite, that's just looking for him to provide everything and not willing to contribute, and may not even be the best mother material there. That's my take on it.
Well, one of the things that for men and women that really impacts the dating and the dating outcomes they get is biology usually wins over logic in decision making. because you can't really control what you're attracted to, even though
Right.
you can try to make decisions or choose the best option. But eventually your biology and your natural desires, you either gonna cheat, you either gonna, or it's gonna eventually fall apart if the interest wasn't genuine. And so the guys, that end up staying with toxic or problematic women because she's fine and she got the coochie's the bomb, you and them. Every time there's a problem, you have sex again, and now you good for another couple of days or another day or two until the next argument or the next problem. Guys can fall into that cycle of falling for attractive women and good sex. And it's the same as women when it comes to guys that can shower them with gifts and money. We see it all the time with Diddy, with all these type of guys. They beat your ass, they do something that crazy to you, but he can give you $100,000 and take you shopping, take you on a vacation, and all these type of things. So it's overlooked or forgiven because of the level of items and things that he can provide for you. So even though her biology is telling her that this is not a good choice or a good decision, and so that those are the things that I would say kind of men and women do that put themselves at a disadvantage.
No question. So historically, dating was the method men and women used to evaluate potential partners. Several conversation interactions to make a decision, see if you want to pursue something longer term with that person.
It's not like that no more.
No.
From what I see now, it's like you have to earn your way to a date. You have to, for guys, they have to present a certain level of interest or a certain level, obviously they have to do the work we talked about to even make themselves even slightly attractive. I saw a video recently where just literally average looking chick, they were showing her guys on Tinder and whether she would, like them or date them or not. And she gave 100 no's almost in a row. Like she gave like 99 no's and one maybe. So even dudes that she was like, oh, he's attractive, but no. Yeah, he's cute, but no. Like, so it's like, well, damn. Like, what else are you using if you're looking at pictures to evaluate men? So their tendency to look for the negative and look for a reason to curb or ignore a guy really disrupts the dating process as well, because there's no like a lot of the guys that were shown were way out of her league.
Wow, that's what what. So I guess with the dating apps, it's become the way of date that we date in this day and age. For the most part, I think if you ask most couples in this day and age of how they met, there's a good number of them that met on these dating sites, right? So 99, that's pretty much 1%. See, you eliminated 99% of the men. You said this is just an average looking shit. And the thing is, women have choices, right? These dating apps kind of work in no different than social media, just working the algorithm. They send you different guys, based on what you like, maybe based on what your preference is, and they'll just send a bunch of people your way, where you can say, hey, yes, and if they say yes to you, match with them. But it's crazy that women are eliminating 80 to 90% of these men that could be potential partners or husbands to these women.
Yeah, but I think it would be very unusual for a guy to swipe through 100 women and not find any of them attractive. Especially if there's an algorithm sending you the women that you said have to meet certain criteria or preferences that you have. But I wanted to touch on something that you said and get your opinion. Like, so we've been, having social media to where you follow certain people and you get to see what they post and get to learn certain things about their lifestyle. Do you feel that that's the equivalent of getting to know somebody like back in the day? Obviously, it's not as in-depth unless you're having DM conversations. But I mean, like the things that you learn about somebody through following them or seeing them on social media, does that account for some of the getting to know them in the dating aspect?
It does to some degree, right? Because you can see you get an idea of how they live. Now people can fake it on there all the time. People always going to put the good stuff right on social media. They're going to put their best foot forward, and it's everybody's living their best life. But I guess you get an idea to see how they might be living. She's posting pictures, whether she's posting pictures at a club, a friend's gathering, baby shower, etc. You kind of get an idea of how she does. You look at her stories, and I look at things of what she posts, what she likes. And like we said earlier, look at the stuff when she's commenting on Shade Room, Spiritual Word, On Site, any of these gossip vlogs. And let's just say it's something like, I'll just give a quick example, because we covered this a couple of years ago, the young lady that allegedly got hit with a brick, and that came out live.
Right.
Look, if she's commenting something like that in defense, black men don't defend black, something of that sort. That's all I need to know right there, right? So I look at things like that.
Well, yeah, I agree. You get to see a glimpse of their lifestyle. Obviously, you get to see their appearance, what they looking like, the milestones of the things they post, depending on how much of their life that they share on social media. And so I do think that it could speed up the process. If you've been following somebody and then you meet in person, I think you already have enough information about them to know whether or not you could at least date them. Because to me, the whole dating process itself back in the day was to figure out if we were both interested in taking things to the next level, whether that was having sex, whether that was getting in a relationship, or whatever the next level was. But all right, we met at the party. We were attractive enough to exchange numbers. The conversation that we had was cool enough and interested enough for me to want to see you in person. And now I'm trying to see if we're compatible, right? I'm trying to see, if the sexual interest is mutual, if you're somebody that I could actually be with long term, whatever the case, depending on what your dating goals are, obviously. I think for most guys, they're just kind of playing it by whatever happens. I don't really have no expectations. And that's kind of how they manage disappointment and heartbreak or whatnot. You don't really get your feelings hurt that much if you're not expecting it to be a love romance and something that leads to marriage. But that was more genuine because it was actual time spent. And like you said, it could just be you sitting in the car talking, you just sitting on the stairs talking, or you just sitting in the living room having a conversation. You could be playing spades, inviting two chicks to come play cards and things of that nature. Those were the best get to know people kind of situations that I could recall from my single days. But it doesn't appear that guys get that many opportunities now. And another thing that I think really hurts it, and ain't no dance floors. Like a lot of the women that I slept with, the sexual questions, the mutual interest and all that, the dance floor figured that out. If the woman letting you dance on her, and touch on her, and grind on her on the dance floor, it's a lost cultural icon in my opinion.
It does. That's definitely gone by the wayside, especially here in Houston. It's section. It became section hookahs at many spots. Monday nights they got dollar hookahs, $2 Tuesdays, and the sections are free. Comes with the hookah, so that kind of messed everything up here.
Yeah, and I don't think that's talked about that much, but that used to set it up. That's what men went out for. Was to be, the guys that just went out and stood around looking like they do today didn't have much success. But it was the guys that you showed the women you can dance, you have rhythm, all those things, in my opinion, generated sexual interest. You got to be seen, you got to actually engage with kind of everybody. And if you're, I talked about my strategy, I was very strategic I wasn't just wilding out in the club. I was strategically, shooting my shot and trying to get at the women that I wanted to get at. So to me, it was always I ain't always have success, you know, and I ain't always gonna go your way. But the activity itself was always fun to me, being able to peep out who's interested in me, who I like the most, rating the women and evaluating the women and looking at the asses and all that. Like all that was my thing.
Yep.
So
now it's tough, and now it's tough to do, especially with the session, because you don't know who's with who. You know, it might be a couple of guys discussing. You don't know if you don't know who he's with. You don't know if that's you know, a boyfriend, somebody she's dating. So you just don't know any of that. So you're almost guessing, like. So that's the hard part. That's the hard part too with that.
yeah, you know, and evaluating somebody in a scenario where there's very limited interaction, they on their phones, they across the room, you're not really having many opportunities to see them, y'all not really making eye contact, like, so all those type of things make it very difficult to evaluate whether someone's genuinely interested. And then on the alternative, on social media, neither does sending DMs. Most of those are going to get ignored unless you're a blue check or you're somebody famous.
Yeah.
And so to me, what I was saying earlier is like that gets it where you've been following somebody. When you've been, even if you have a lot of followers, you start to notice the people that consistently comment on your page, consistently like your post or whatnot. And so now that they have stories, you can happy birthday, like the people that tell you happy birthday and stuff like that. That being that type of person gives you a much better opportunity to be able to slide in someone's DMs, in my opinion, because that creates a comfort. They don't know you personally, but they know of you. And if they saw you in person, you could have a conversation. Oh man, I follow you. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm such and such. To me, with the amount of social media impact on dating, I think that's the gray area, or that's the transition piece that at least opens the door for the average guy. Guys with a large following and all that type of stuff, I think, have an inherent advantage because that makes them more attractive to women in general. Being popular, being, you know, all that type of stuff.
I think it does. I mean, I think SD can probably relate to this more. He deals with it on a higher level than we do, because he goes to these live events on Tonight's Conversation, and I think there are a good number of women that are there to see him, and along with the other guys that they do have in those panels, because these are a lot of
perfect bachelor move.
It is. Yeah. I mean, these are folks that they create content full time here, so and these are who the women are there to see.
Yeah, you have to pick a side. When you single, do your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm very happy for SD and
absolutely
the lane he's in, to where he's the single guy, and he's if they still did Man Crush Mondays, I would think a lot of women would, because he checks the boxes, you know what I mean? And he ain't out here just clout chasing. He shows he's a good dad. He shows what matters to him. He shows he can build stuff and do all that. So ideally, he's presenting them with the image that they all want, but they don't meet the criteria. That, like, there are a lot of factors that eliminate, he talks about it all the time. They don't live near Chicago. They not willing to move to Chicago. Like they got too many kids. They got this going on. So a lot of these women like the image of it, like the idea of it, but they don't have no chance. And unfortunately, a lot of those women will curve guys in their city, hoping to get with guys like SD.
Or any of the other content.
So SD, you part of the problem, bro.
Damn, you got some up to date game, SD.
I mean, but like he talks about it. He's never had guys like that fit that criteria are always going to have successful women. But finding the women that you consider to be wife material and has the mentality of what you're looking for in your household, that's getting harder and harder and harder to get, because he's one of the people that really says he want to pay. He don't care. He don't want his woman to work, at least not full time. So a lot of women view that like, oh, he's gonna pay all the bills. He's gonna do all this, but they don't meet the criteria. So it's like they chasing the dream or making all these talking points about God that aren't, like you said earlier, they like who's not interested in them.
Yeah, I think with that too, when they hear a guy paying all the bills, they think that's just he just pays all the bills while she just goes and shops
does whatever she wants.
Yeah, exactly, and that's definitely SD is sitting on here. That's not what he's looking for either.
Yeah, I don't. To me, a guy that signs up for that is just begging for problems in the future. A lazy, materialistic woman that doesn't value money or the work that it takes to get it. That's going to create a lot of tension and resentment over time for a guy that's doing all that and not feeling appreciated. So to me, he's accountable for putting himself in that position. That's on him. It's hard to have sympathy for a lot of guys that make these kind of decisions where they choose the BBL woman over the local chick that probably had more wifely qualities. We look like we up against the clock, man. We about to be getting up out of here. Before we go, I want to give another shout out to my man, Brother Soul Production, for keeping us late for our background music. I want to remind y'all to continue supporting the podcast or our Cash App and our PayPal. Jay, I appreciate you linking up so we can get this episode knocked out. Look forward to getting SD back, man. Daddy dudes be having him tied up. But we looking forward to getting him back on the podcast so we can chop it up some more. This has been another episode of the Ho to Husband Podcast, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.